Hi, I'm Tate, and I did homelessness in the United States. For the history, 1700s and prior, the earliest recorded cases of homelessness in the United States was recorded in the 1640s, and then in 1734, the first poorhouse was opened in New York City. This poorhouse served as a homeless shelter as well as a mental institution and a jail, and that's a picture of it at the bottom. From the 1800s to the 1930s, kind of a lot happened. During the Industrial Revolution in the 1820s, a large population of people moved northeast for work, which drastically increased the amount of people experiencing homelessness. Cities created laws banning loitering and panhandling, as well as begging in the streets because of this. And then in 1830, Andrew Jackson signed the Indian Removal Act. This act authorized the president to give unsettled lands west of Mississippi in exchange for Indian lands within the existing states. This was the first major federal legislation to cause large populations to experience homelessness because obviously they didn't want to give up, many Native American tribes didn't want to give up the land that they had had for so long. And then the Great Depression caused a gigantic increase in the homeless population just because no one was able to afford anything. The New Deal was created in 1933, which created programs for Americans to build wealth. And while the New Deal was a step in the right direction by giving people a way to find new jobs and stabilizing prices, it did exclude African Americans from most of their programs, so it definitely wasn't perfect. From the 1960s to now, from 1960 to 1980, homelessness increased a lot because mental hospitals and other institutions were deinstitutionalized, causing people to go homeless. And then the HIV and AIDS crisis was happening, which also caused people to go homeless. And then also during that time, there was a lot of housing discrimination going on, which caused a large population of people of color, specifically Black and Native American populations, to experience homelessness as well. And then in the early 2000s, the issue of homelessness was finally starting to be addressed on federal, national, and local levels. It wasn't really until the 2010s that people started to look into racism and homelessness together. And then homelessness obviously is still a prevailing issue in the United States, and there are many steps that still need to be taken in order for this issue to be resolved. So for my story, I read The Pursuit of Education, a story of homelessness, perseverance, and the impact of caring educators. This is Janie S., and she was 8 years old when she first experienced homelessness. Her and her family would sleep in churches and experience the reality of emergency shelters, which is that they're not well kept. She said she got lice after staying there for 2 days. And at 16, she was still experiencing homelessness. She soon became one of the 87% of homeless students to drop out of high school since she was struggling so significantly with her depression, which was caused by a lot of her homelessness trauma. She was remotivated to go back to school when her family was doing a little bit better financially, and she saw how happy and motivated her little brother was to come back from school. She persevered through her difficulties and ended up graduating high school and is planning to continue to college. And she said that the most important thing that helped her through her time was people showing empathy and providing a safe space to students experiencing homelessness, and helping them meet their basic needs was something that helped her break out of an often unbreakable cycle of homelessness. So how many students actually experience homelessness? From 2008 to 2014, the population of homelessness in public schools increased by 90%, which means that in 2014, about 1.3 million students experienced homelessness, and with the COVID-19 pandemic and everything, those rates have been increasing. About 35% of America's homeless population is under the age of 24, and when we think of students experiencing homelessness, I know I think younger kids first when I hear students, but this also does include college students and older high school students that are also homeless. What challenges do homeless students face? A big one is food insecurity. Food is what makes students able to absorb the information and comprehend what's going on. And many people experiencing homelessness are also experiencing food insecurity. And then they also have limited access to healthcare. Families experiencing homelessness often cannot afford to go to the doctors when they're sick or injured, and this again can severely affect a student's ability to learn, concentrate, and participate. How can educators help support their students? Educators need to be aware and be able to tell the signs if a student may be possibly experiencing homelessness so that they're able to help that student in the way that that student needs help. Signs of homelessness vary, but a few are wearing the same clothes many days in a row, poor health and nutrition, a lack of continuity in schools, unexplained absences, and poor hygiene. And then if a student is known to be experiencing homelessness, a lot of sources say that educators should give time to finish their assignments in school compared to homework. This allows the student to have one less thing to worry about when they're not at school. And then as an educator, just showing empathy and understanding to the students and family goes a long ways. Educators should be able to provide resources to be able to provide them to the students if them or the families ask for them. Some additional resources. This first link just talks more about Janie's experience with homelessness and a few more of her specific details about her past that I wasn't able to just read her entire story, so that's her full story. And then the second link talks about the McKinney-Vento homeless education, which allows students that are experiencing homelessness to get the different types of help that they need. It provides healthcare and mental health resources and a whole bunch of other things. And then the last link shows a variety of different resources for homeless students, including mental health resources, food insecurity resources, and transportation resources, which I think is something that goes untalked about a lot, is homeless people also have to get around the city. So I think that's really important that they touched on that. And then these were my references for my presentation. Thank you.